We were in the stadium the first 45 minutes. I practiced really all of our high rep guys, so our ones basically, and did a little bit of work yesterday, a lot of Devo work. Today was our ones went basically the first hour of the practice, and then we moved it, got a lot of wet ball work. I have a feeling down the stretch here in the last 4 games of the regular season, 2 home, 2 away, we're going to find some weather along the way, so to get some wet ball work with our ones, not just a wet ball, but also footing. You think everything changes with that. And then we moved inside here, did a lot of 2s, became our 1s, and then our Devo and 3s became our 2s. Got a lot of good Illinois versus Illinois. Some guys have been banged up. We're holding those guys out, obviously, but with all intentions, I would think that Reggie and Keith probably have a very good chance of being back Minnesota week. We're not going to push them into this week, but we'll see where they're at next week from there. As far as from the game, I can't really recall anybody. Obviously, Johnny missed the first half of the Minnesota game, but from an injury standpoint, I think we actually came out of it halfway decent on the back end. So take advantage of the bye week. I've always thought the bye week is about 3 things: rest and recovery your guys that have got a lot of high reps. Obviously, take a inventory of your 2 deep and your Devo guys and try to push them and make them develop in this off week as much as we can. Make them feel the urgency of a game week, even though they don't feel it during the course of the week when they're sitting behind somebody else. And then third thing, the biggest thing is just individual, positional, unit, and team analysis. Kind of self-scouts, but also just how you're doing everything. So I've been gone since Sunday afternoon. I think I was in 6 states in 3 days, and then got back yesterday afternoon. We got good work today, have good work tomorrow, and then I'll take back off and do some recruiting Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And then Sunday we should, because of Minnesota, obviously still have a game. We'll get a chance to watch that, but we'll have a good jump on Minnesota on Sunday, a little bit tomorrow as well. With that, open up questions.
Have you, or are you going to appeal Johnny's?
Already done. Yep. Already done and denied, and yep, it is what it is.
How would you characterize just the conversations with the Big Ten this season with officials and all that?
You know, this is my, 10th year in the league as a head coach. You know, I think every coach gets off the field on Saturday, and you're going to see things through a different lens. What I try to do is just kind of take the perspective of, hey, what do I see during the game? I make an evaluation of what I see on Sunday. I would say on a whole, we usually turn in, 3, 4, 5 plays. I think, some that I've been surprised with the answers, some I've also been satisfied, but it really doesn't matter. All we use it for is teaching. I literally turn in plays sometimes to teach my guys, but also to teach, officials or the Big Ten. Like, hey, this is what I'm seeing. Am I seeing it right? And we'll get a varied amount of responses. But Johnny's a little bit different because that was an NCAA appeal, and that's a formal NCAA process because of him being ejected from the game. So I had a conversation with him last night when I found out, and Johnny, you saw how much it hurt him during the course of the game. My appeal was obviously that he used his hands in some fashion, but I understand why I got called, and I understand why we're standing here today, and we just got to move forward. The biggest thing is we have to move forward. As a D lineman, one of the things we commonly talk about is you're going to have plays where you beat a lineman, you have a free shot and the quarterback can't see you, and we've talked extensively how to take that play on, and thankfully we haven't had any of these. Johnny, I believe, has had over 100 pressures. I don't know how many sacks and hurries, and has never been even where close to this. So unfortunately it causes him to miss, half of a game and half of another, but it is what it is.
Coach, that rule about missing the next.
Yeah.
What's your general? I mean,
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. One of the things, I was actually on the committee that when we first implemented this rule,
Really?
I was on the rules committee, and we had talked about different ways. And the main thing is we want to curb the behavior of our student athletes,
Sure.
right? In the name of player safety. And I don't think unequivocally anybody can sit back and say that hasn't changed, right? Like our guys. I think the game, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, has changed dramatically about how they launch, how they use their head. I think it's almost obvious now, like you will hear people in the stand say, oh, that's tough, because people recognize when it happens, right? Like when people lead with their head and use it as a weapon and set up to help protect the defensive player more than the offensive player, right? So I get it, I understand it. I think they'll always take a reevaluation of where it's at. It's hard, especially when you get down to the end, right? Like guys that are in limited number of games. I've seen examples at the end of each year where a guy's been basically removed or prohibited from a bowl game or a conference championship game, and that plays bang bang. You saw Johnny's reaction; like he had no intention of doing anything more than he saw that ball. He knew he could get it out, and unfortunately, that's a play that could have changed the whole direction of the game, right? In a positive way, but unfortunately, it happened, and we just got to bite it and move on.
Is it too punitive? No. Is it too much?
Yes, I think it's up to discussion.
Yeah.
Coach, what you've seen on the field this year, has it changed at all how you evaluate your recruiting needs and specifically how you may want to approach the portal in the offseason?
Yeah, great question. I think anytime as a head coach, we have 120 rosters on a player, we have 85 scholarships. we're a 3-5 team. If we were a 5-3 team, 7-1 team, last year, we were 7-2 going, right? Like whatever it is, like you have to evaluate where you're at. It doesn't make any difference what your record is. It just makes a perspective where your roster is. You have to understand the players that you may have thought aren't playing at the level that you want, or maybe because of injury, you've had certain situations that definitely takes a toll.
How have you handled Yakis's, or how have you thought Yakis has handled his positional change, whether it's permanent or not?
When do you have a position change?
He had his hand.
Oh, yeah. Well, in our package, you'll see before last week, there were some times where he did that. Last year we did it with other defensive ends. We did it with Owen Carney my first year. So there really hasn't been a position change. But, I think the biggest thing, we got to maximize our guys' strengths. And last week, obviously with Keith out of the game, we felt with the personnel that they were showing, they're a big 11 personnel team that didn't do much big unless they're in short yards or goal line, obviously. So nothing's really changed with him. I think I've been really pleased. I thought 2 weeks ago Gabe might have had his best practice session of the week going in the Maryland game. And I know he's stressing and pushing to make as much out of each opportunity, but I'm excited to see him in the last 4 games.
So because Charlie and JMO kind of work together so much, he can still be in.
You want to write a story on that? Is that what you're doing? Like he's an outside linebacker that played outside linebacker and defensive end.
Okay.
So you talk a lot about taking inventory where you guys are at. What has that told you? I'm sure you and the coaches have done a big picture inventory. What did that tell you about the first 8 weeks?
Well, I think without a doubt, things offensively, short yardage, being able to put points on the board in certain phases of the game, those two jump out. I met with Aaron and Barry before I left town on Sunday, gave them specific things to look on that we're going to actually review here today as a staff. End of half for us defensively has obviously been an issue, end of game. And then, from a real logistical standpoint, even like with our twos and Devo out there today, football's football. We were practicing early down out there today. If our offense hit a couple early down big play hits, if we do that offensively, you're going to win a lot of games. If you don't, it's very restricted to your offense. Like I think we did a stat a couple weeks ago where of our 17 scoring drives, we had to play 15 yards or more in each one of those, right? 16 to 17. Like that's should tell you right there that you need explosive plays to score points. And then the penalty factor, especially on defense, anytime we've had a 15-yard penalty, it's almost perfect recipe for them to get at least a field goal, if not a touchdown. So those self-inventories are really big.
Is your 1 week off week this year? What's the significance of that for recruiting?
Yeah, it's big. You guys know, obviously, we do a lot in these bye weeks. I kind of added 2 more days into the schedule than I normally have been. Now they changed the rule too. We shortened it down from a number of days. It used to be to 33. So, but I had Bart with me for basically 3 days. I'll go back out on the road on the back end this week, and Barry and maybe another coach will be with me. We were kind of in a certain region of the country this last few days. Now we'll be in a certain different region this week, and it's really for the first time we've never really dabbled into the high school. But just with certain guys that we feel we need to make an appearance and presence on, that's a little bit more this week or this year than ever. But having 1 bye week definitely changed our numbers.
What do you want you guys doing this weekend? I mean, off the feet. I mean, what's your general idea when you have an open week like this?
Players, coaches.
Yeah, players and coaches.
Well, I think from a player standpoint, we're gonna working pretty good Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, especially Tuesday Devo. Friday morning they'll have a lift. Our guys, because Friday is a travel day, normally we're on the road, they miss a lot of class on Friday, right, when we travel. So I didn't want to do anything to give them the day off Friday because that would probably ensure they're going to miss a class again. So we wanted to work them through Friday, and then I'm encouraging them Friday night, to do something they don't normally get to do, whether it's watching local guys watch a high school football game. They should enjoy college football on Saturday, watch some of their buddies, obviously teams that we're going to play. I know Minnesota, I believe Indiana's live. I know Purdue's live and Northwestern. So chance to watch or pre-advanced look. And then football's football. Like there's a lot going on in our kind of world right now, right? Like with college football, especially within our conference. And I think the more our guys can educate and learn about others, right, through kind of observing, I think that's just a positive.
What do you make of this sign stealing? I mean, this is probably no more inside than outside. So just
it's definitely been it's my 15th year, right? I know when I first became a head coach was when I really began to think about it. Now we were running a huddle offense, so it really didn't become paramount. I'm telling you, I steal signals on game day, right? Like that's part of it. On game day, I watch the defense. Usually when we're on offense, I watch the defensive signal caller, and I'll try to get a cue on that. And then when we're on defense, I'll watch an offense, and sometimes you can tell when they're going to go fast or when they give you a certain look that you're going to get again. So that's a big part of the game. And then when I went to the NFL, one of the things that jumped out to me, because of all the things that happened before I got there, they had in-helmet communication. So whether it be at the end of my last tenure when I was in the league or the beginning of this one of the things I've strongly advocated every year is in-helmet. Literally, one of the first conversations I had with Tony Petiti is in-helmet communication. I swear, this was last spring, summer when he was named. So I get it. Like, I think in this league, though, I've been very fortunate, right? Very blessed. This is my third head coaching job, twice in this league. I learned under Hayden Fry to Kirk Ferentz to Barry Alvarez, worked with Bill Snyder at Kansas State. And one of the things I always learned when I was working with those guys is you have to have a reputation and a feeling within our league that everybody else is going to abide by what you believe is the rules, right? And I get where it's at. Like, I'll tell you, I've as a head coach, I've picked up and called another head coach when I feel something has been wrong. If not, I report it to the Big Ten officials and kind of let them handle it. Because I think we all have to assume that's happening. I mean, as a head coach, I work my tail off to get this job, this opportunity. I tell our coaches every day, do things by the way that they need to be done and in a way that abides by everything we are. But I think that's the standard we all got to feel. Whatever's going forward, we just believe that people are doing things right. And I think that's said in all phases of football, especially in this conference. And, I don't know anything about that whole deal, but I do know that's how I've kind of approached it as a head coach.
What's been the message to the team as far as what's in front of them down the stretch of this season?
Huge. And tomorrow's Thursday. That's in front of us, right? Like that's a big deal. It's not funny. That's what I believe, right? Like Thursday's in front of us. I gave them the agenda today of what we're going to do. Friday they got a work day. Saturday they have off. Sunday we'll jump into Minnesota prep. We have 4 straight weeks of 4 opportunities. And if we go into Minnesota week thinking about the end of the year, if we go into the Minnesota week thinking about Indiana or Iowa or Northwestern, we're not going to get anywhere we need to go. So our focus will be on this bye week preparation. A lot of people call it an off week. I call it a work week, right? Like, we got a lot of work to do here during the work week, and then get us into a week that we got a little bit of an advantage on Minnesota. So from a timing standpoint, that's something we got to emphasize.
But you mentioned after the game that you got more of a man team or play more man along those lines, especially at the end of half.
I said that at the end of half, right?
Yeah. So what's the balance there between man and zone, and why do you feel like maybe
It depends on the team. I think there's, for us, you got a young quarterback in that game, a quarterback that hadn't, played a lot. So I think the one part he can do is they were simplifying his reads and letting him look at certain things. And with a man, you got people attached to him and all over him, right? So at the end of half, there's obviously varying things on what you can do, but we got hurt a little bit at the end of half on a couple straight zone plays, and that's what I was referencing.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.